everybody, welcome back to That Fiction Life. Today I have some very exciting guests for you, Elizabeth Klehfoth and Melissa Albert. So two brilliant authors. We're going to start with doing a little introduction about your books, and we're going to do a quick 30-second challenge for each of you to give a little insight into your book, and we'll see how much you can tell us in those 30 seconds.
And you're going to put on a timer?
Are you timing us?
I'm going to time. Who's going to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay, you ready?
Yes. All right, so my book, All These Beautiful Strangers, is a cross between Gossip Girl and The Secret History. It follows Charlie Calloway, who's 17 years old, and she's attending an elite New England boarding school in New Hampshire. And she's been tapped by the A's, which is a secret society at her school. At the same time, she's haunted by the dark legacy of her family name and the disappearance of her mother from the family lake house when she was little. And she goes on a quest to discover what really happened to her mother. Darn it.
Wasn't that
32
just
seconds.
so tip-top?
2 seconds over.
Amazing. Right. Are you ready?
Wait. Okay, yeah.
Right, 3, 2, 1.
Okay. The Magicians meets the Brothers Grimm. Yeah. This is about a girl named Alice whose grandmother was the author of a cult collection of fairy tales that is now out of print, impossible to find, but has inspired like this intense fandom. Alice has never met her grandmother, but when her grandmother dies, her mother goes missing soon thereafter, and Alice realizes that the world of her grandmother's stories is not only a real place, but a dangerous one, and that it is out to get her.
Under time.
With my last 4 seconds, I know they're
Anything
all yours.
else?
Yeah, I got it.
That was brilliant. So that gives you a really quick insight into both of these books, and you've done very well. I'm very proud of you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So my first question is about your protagonists. So they're both quite determined and very resourceful, I found, when reading the book. And so I was wondering how important this was in your particular stories, and how Alice's and Charlie's personalities helped to drive the plots.
Oh, I like that question. Okay, so Alice, as you say, she's very stubborn. I don't plot ahead of time. I kind of like write as I go along. So I found it useful at moments when I didn't know what I wanted to happen next, to kind of just ask myself what she would do. I mean, I know that sounds really basic, but it's wonderful to read a book where a character either gets in their own way or has the resources to kind of help themselves out. So definitely at moments when I was stuck, her stubbornness and her anger and what she was looking for, what she desired, kind of helped me get out of some tight narrative spots.
For me, my favorite books are the ones with strong female protagonists who are a little bit complicated or kind of rough around the edges. So it was important to me that Charlie be not completely likable, and that she have some rough edges. So and she's a very active character. You know, she's not passive. She's not acted upon. She's the one who's really driving the plot in the book.
Also, secrets and lies are a big part of both of your books. How did you decide the most effective way to introduce plot twists, like revealing these secrets and lies?
Yeah.
I think for me, I knew I wanted to do alternating point of views. And so, you know, every character has a very limited perspective. And I think those limitations allowed me to kind of play around with the reveals a lot, and also jumping back and forth between like the past and the present. So there was always a discrepancy between what Charlie thought she knew about her parents' story and then what actually happened in the past. So that's kind of how I dealt with it.
So I tried to kind of, as I went along, seed the book with like odd, interesting things that I found interesting that I would later figure out what they meant. So, like for instance, in one of the first scenes of the book, my character is given by someone from her past a feather, a comb, and a bone. And when that happened, I didn't know why or what it meant. It just seemed like fairy tale-ish and interesting to me, and then like I figured it out later. So it was kind of like
tomorrow's problem. You figure it out.
I gave myself a lot of problems and then figured them out as I went.
So this is specifically for you, Elizabeth. I found your take on secret societies really different. How did you balance having Charlie discovering her secrets as well as her goal to join the A's?
Good question. So as a reader, I guess my flaw is I get bored really easily. So I like to have a lot going on. So I knew I wanted to have like two different plots driving the story. So in the present day, it's Charlie trying to like get into the secret society, but in the past, it's this relationship between Grace and Alistair. So I think the way I balanced it was, you know, switching back and forth between the different viewpoints and then back and forth between past and present.
But Melissa, the Hazel Wood has a very fine line between reality and its fantastical moments. Why did you decide to go down the route of a more urban fantasy, so it had those little bits of reality rather than full-on high fantasy?
So I do love high fantasy, but really like contemporary fantasy is my jam. Like it's my favorite thing. I love even magical realism set in like a contemporary world, or like the contemporary world slightly skewed, like something like a near future book, like Adam Silvera's They Both Die at the End is a good example of that. I just love books set in the real world that are like just a little bit off, or in the case of mine, that become like full-blown fantasy by the end. I like to be like having a character walking through a fantasy world, but they're like, humming a Beatles song, or like they find a Cheetos wrapper on the floor. I don't know. That's a bad example. But I just like that intrusion of the real into fantasy, like in really concrete ways.
Do you find that it makes it more believable in that way as well, rather than just reading it complete high fantasy? It kind of makes you believe a little bit because it's entrenched in our world a little bit.
Yeah, it might have started with my obsession at age 14 with Francesca Lia Block, whose books were like set in LA, which she made it seem like the most magical place in the world. And it was very like that, like wonderful high-low of the real and the magical.
So family and relationships are very pivotal to both of your books. Why was this an important area for you to explore?
That's like the heart of the book for me, is these family relationships and the friendships. And I wanted the book to have a strong emotional core, and like in addition to having like the suspense and the twists and the turns, like for me, I wanted it to be somewhat of like an emotional deep read as well.
And again, for me, it is a book that kind of like spins out in some wild directions, which I love. Really weird books is something that I love. But I wanted there to be that core, that like heart maintained at the center. And also, as we talked about, like we do have characters, our heroines are complicated and complex. They're difficult women in their ways, as you might put it. So I think often if a character is not great to everybody, it is important to have them have somebody who they can be good to. Like you need to have somebody that they can show the best of themselves to. And so for my heroine, that's her mother.
I do find a bit more morally ambiguous characters way more interesting to read than just a full-on good heroine that you're meant to look up to. So this is a bit of a fun one. So if you could have a character from one of your favourite books, films or movies become the sidekick for a day with one of your characters to take them through their plot, who would it be?
I'm going to say maybe Ford Prefect from Hitchhiker's Guide, because he'll like have a towel and he's always prepared for everything. Alternatively, Ron Weasley, just because he's like the greatest sidekick ever.
Oh,
sorry, Ron. He's kind of a sidekick.
Very good.
Yeah.
I'm like obsessed right now with 13 Reasons Why. So I would say Hannah, because I think she's another, strong female character who would be a good sidekick for
Charlie. If they
Charlie.
clash a bit, it would be amazing.
A little bit, yeah.
Oh, that would be great. So my final question is a little bit about the future. Are you allowed to tell us about any of your upcoming projects, what you're working on?
I think I can. I'm allowed to tell you a little. So I'm writing another Hazel Wood book, a book set in the world of Hazel Wood, which is all I'll say about that. I'm drafting it now and having a lot of fun. And then I'm writing The Tales from the Hinterland, which is Althea's book, which is the book around which the action of the Hazelwood kind of revolves.
Brilliant. So we get to find out more. How about you?
I'm writing another standalone YA mystery right now. This one's set in Los Angeles.
Ooh.
Oh, exciting. Well, thank you so much to both of you for talking to me today. Make sure to check out both these books. They are just both incredible. There you go. Even the covers. So make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.